The August 22nd, 2017 solar eclipse was set to be a monumental event for the small, tightly knit community of Harper's Creek, a picturesque town nestled in the heart of the Midwest. The town, usually quiet and unassuming, had been buzzing with excitement and anticipation for weeks. Local businesses boasted eclipse-themed sales, schools organized educational events, and the community center planned a viewing party that promised to bring together young and old. Amidst this whirlwind of activity, I felt a personal connection to the upcoming eclipse, one that ran deeper than mere astronomical interest. My brother, Alex, had been an avid amateur astronomer since we were kids, his fascination with the stars and planets shaping many of our childhood adventures. We'd spend countless nights in our backyard, him with his telescope, and me with a flashlight and notebook, acting as his eager assistant. Though life eventually took us in different directions, I ventured into journalism while he pursued a career in astrophysics. Our shared love for the cosmos remained a bond that no distance could sever. Alex had planned to return to Harper's Creek for the eclipse, his excitement palpable even through the brief, sporadic phone calls that our hectic schedules allowed. However, fate had other plans. A sudden, severe illness took Alex from us just 3 months before the event he had so eagerly anticipated. His absence left a void in our family and in the town that had eagerly awaited his expertise and enthusiasm for the eclipse. Driven by a desire to honor Alex's memory, I decided to view the eclipse from his favorite spot, a secluded hill on the outskirts of Harper's Creek, away from the festivities and crowds. It was here, amid the tall grass and wildflowers, that we had spent countless hours stargazing and dreaming of distant worlds. The morning of the eclipse dawned clear and bright, a perfect day for celestial observation. I made my way to the hill early, carrying not only my eclipse glasses but also Alex's old telescope, a notebook filled with his handwritten observations, and a heavy heart. The solitude of the spot offered a stark contrast to the communal spirit that animated the rest of Harper's Creek, yet it felt right to be there, alone with my thoughts and memories of my brother. As the moon began its slow passage across the sun, casting an ever-growing shadow over the land, an eerie calm descended. The vibrant sounds of summer, the chirping of crickets, the rustle of leaves, the distant calls of birds, gradually faded into silence. The light, too, changed, becoming dimmer, cooler, as if the very atmosphere was holding its breath in anticipation of totality. It was during this surreal twilight that I noticed something unusual. A figure moving in the distance, at the far edge of the hill, barely visible through the dimming light. Curiosity piqued. I watched as the figure drew closer, eventually recognizing the gait and stature of someone I knew well. Eli, a childhood friend and Alex's closest confidant in all things astronomical. Eli's arrival was unexpected, to say the least. We hadn't spoken in years, not since a bitter disagreement drove a wedge between us, a disagreement rooted in our shared grief over Alex's passing. Yet here he was, approaching me under the shadow of the eclipse, a symbolic convergence of past and present that felt almost too poignant to bear. "Hey," he said simply as he came to a stop a few feet away, an awkward tension hanging in the air between us. "Hey," I replied, equally unsure of how to bridge the gap that time and hurt had widened. "What are you doing here?" "I could ask you the same," he said, a hint of the old, easy camaraderie we once shared surfacing in his voice. "I guess I just wanted to see it, you know? For Alex." His words, spoken softly against the backdrop of the dimming world, struck a chord within me. Despite everything, our shared love for Alex and the pain of his absence had brought us back together, if only for this brief moment of cosmic spectacle. As totality approached, we stood side by side in silence, watching through our glasses as the last sliver of sunlight disappeared, plunging the world into an eerie darkness. The stars appeared, twinkling in the daytime sky, a sight both beautiful and haunting. It was a moment of profound connection, not just to the universe at large, but to each other and to Alex, whose presence seemed to envelop us in the cool, shadowy light. It was then, in the darkness of totality, that Eli turned to me, his face a mask of emotion that the dim light could not fully conceal. "I found something," he began, his voice barely above a whisper. "Something Alex left behind. I think you should see it." His words, unexpected and laden with mystery, marked the beginning of a journey neither of us could have anticipated. A journey that would lead us to uncover secrets long buried, truths that would challenge our understanding of the brother and friend we thought we knew. As the first rays of sunlight began to break through the darkness, signaling the end of totality, I realized that this eclipse would forever alter the course of our lives, in ways as unpredictable and profound as the event itself. As the light slowly returned, washing over the landscape and chasing away the darkness of totality, Eli and I exchanged a look that conveyed a mutual understanding. Whatever Alex had left behind, it was significant enough to potentially heal old wounds and maybe, just maybe, bring closure. We didn't wait for the eclipse to end completely. The urgency in Eli's demeanor pushed us to leave the hill, driving back to town in a silence filled with anticipation and a myriad of unasked questions. The ride felt surreal, as if we were navigating not just the physical distance back to Harper's Creek, but also the emotional distance that had grown between us over the years. Eli led me to his home, a modest, well-kept house that had once been a frequent gathering place for our trio. Inside, he retrieved a small, nondescript box from a shelf in his living room. Dust coated its surface, indicating it had been undisturbed for some time. He handed it to me with a solemnity that weighed heavily in the air. Opening the box revealed a collection of items that at first glance seemed ordinary: photographs of Alex and us, star charts, a few personal belongings of Alex's, and at the very bottom, a sealed envelope with my name written in Alex's familiar handwriting. My hands trembled as I took it, the reality of receiving a message from someone I had mourned and missed so deeply washing over me in an overwhelming wave. Inside the envelope was a letter and a series of coordinates written on a separate piece of paper. Alex's letter was brief but poignant, explaining that he had left something for me, something he discovered that had changed his understanding of the stars he loved so much. The coordinates, he explained, would lead me to this discovery. His words were cryptic, filled with a sense of wonder and urgency that was so characteristic of him. Eli and I decided to follow the coordinates the next day, driving deep into the countryside surrounding Harper's Creek. The journey took us to an abandoned observatory that Alex had often talked about renovating and turning into a community center for astronomy enthusiasts. The place was hidden away in a dense patch of forest, its dome barely visible among the overgrowth. The coordinates led us to a locked door at the base of the observatory, behind which lay the culmination of Alex's secret project, a meticulously restored viewing room, complete with a powerful telescope aimed at a specific patch of sky. Beside the telescope was another letter, this one addressed to both Eli and me. In it, Alex revealed that he had discovered a previously unknown comet, one that would be visible from Earth in just a few weeks. He described how this discovery had reignited his passion for astronomy and how he dreamed of sharing it with us. The comet, which he had unofficially named after our childhood secret club, represented his hope that we would find our way back to each other and to the shared love of the stars that had once united us. Tears blurred my vision as I finished reading, the magnitude of Alex's gift settling in my heart. Here, in this forgotten place, he had left us a legacy of discovery and reconciliation, a final testament to the bonds of friendship and brotherhood that not even death could sever. Eli and I spent the next few weeks preparing the observatory for the comet's arrival, repairing the neglected equipment, and spreading the word about the viewing event we planned in Alex's honor. The comet, visible to the naked eye as a faint streak of light against the night sky, brought the community of Harper's Creek together in a way nothing else could. Standing beside the telescope, watching the comet with a crowd of fellow stargazers, I felt Alex's presence among us, a guiding light that had led us out of the darkness of grief and into a new understanding of the ties that bind us to each other and to the universe itself. The eclipse had been the catalyst for a journey of healing and discovery, a reminder that even in our darkest moments, the light will always return, revealing the beauty and mystery of the world around us. And in that beauty, in those shared moments of wonder and awe, we found the strength to move forward, carrying the memory of Alex with us into the stars and beyond. Amidst the excitement surrounding the solar eclipse, the small, isolated town of Eden's Creek, nestled in the heart of the Rocky Mountains, prepared for a spectacle unlike any other. The town, known for its breathtaking landscapes and pristine wilderness, was a haven for nature enthusiasts and solitude seekers alike. Among them was Julia, a young wildlife photographer who had moved to Eden's Creek for its untouched beauty and the promise of capturing nature in its rawest form. The eclipse offered a unique opportunity to photograph the landscape under the rare and eerie light, an opportunity Julia couldn't pass up. Julia planned to hike to an overlook that provided a panoramic view of the valley below, a spot she had discovered months earlier. She prepared her backpack with her camera equipment, water, and supplies, setting out before dawn to capture the early morning light before the eclipse began. The hike was strenuous, a steep climb through dense forest and over rocky terrain, but Julia was motivated by the anticipation of the event. As she reached the overlook, the first light of dawn was breaking over the horizon, casting a golden hue over the valley. It was serene, untouched by the hustle and bustle of the town, preparing for the eclipse below. As the morning progressed, the light began to change, growing dimmer as the moon's shadow encroached upon the sun. Julia set up her camera, adjusting the settings to capture the landscape as it transformed under the fading light. The temperature dropped, and a chill ran through the air, a reminder of the power of the celestial event unfolding above. Then, as totality approached, Julia heard something, a distant sound that seemed out of place in the quiet of the wilderness. It was a faint rumbling, growing steadily louder, a sound she couldn't immediately identify. Concerned, she scanned the horizon, searching for the source. Without warning, the ground beneath her feet began to shake, a violent tremor that sent her sprawling to the ground. The rumbling grew into a roar, and Julia realized with horror that it was an avalanche, triggered by the quake, cascading down the opposite side of the valley. Panic set in as she gathered her equipment, preparing to flee, but the overlook offered no escape route. The quake subsided as quickly as it had begun, leaving behind an eerie silence, broken only by the distant sounds of the avalanche's aftermath. Julia was unharmed, but the experience left her shaken. The eclipse, now reaching totality, enveloped the valley in darkness, a darkness that seemed to mirror her fear. She huddled against a rock, waiting for the light to return, feeling more isolated than ever before. As the sun re-emerged, revealing the landscape altered by the avalanche, Julia knew the day's events would haunt her. The beauty of the eclipse was overshadowed by the reminder of nature's unpredictability and the fragility of human existence in the face of it. Determined to make her way back to town, Julia packed her equipment, casting one last look at the valley below. The path she had taken was now blocked by debris from the quake, forcing her to find an alternate route back. The journey was treacherous, the aftermath of the quake evident in the disrupted terrain and fallen trees. It was late afternoon by the time Julia emerged from the forest, tired and covered in dust, but grateful to be alive. The town of Eden's Creek was abuzz with stories of the eclipse, but Julia's experience remained her own, a private encounter with the raw power of nature. She reported the avalanche to the local authorities, who were surprised but thankful for the warning, as hikers and campers frequented the area. In the days that followed, Julia struggled with the memory of that morning, the beauty of the eclipse forever linked with the fear she had felt. She realized that the wilderness she loved, with its serene landscapes and tranquil moments, also harbored dangers that could emerge without warning, changing everything in an instant.